Last night, in the final kina that we said, it begins by saying, Zachor Hashem mahaya lanu. Hashem, remember what happened to us. We are saying to Hashem, you have to remember all of the horrible things that have gone on that are related to Tisha B'Av that have happened to us. And it's a strange statement, because certainly Hashem remembers what happened. But it's not something that can just happen on its own. In fact, one lesson that we see going throughout is the concept of mida keneged mida, a character, right? A character in direct relationship to a character. That is to say, an action that I do that in this case would be a wrong action is reciprocated by Hashem to send me a message in a similar action happening to me. So two examples that are cited in the Kinos. One is that the Jews, during the destruction of the first temple, had nothing to drink. And they died from thirst. And the prophet says that this is a direct relationship to the fact that we didn't do the Neshach HaMayim, the pouring of the water, in an appropriate way. And because of that, Hashem retaliated, so to speak. He sent us a message that if we're going to be punished, it'll be punished in a way that resembles what we did. And then it says, and then one place it says that we were captured by slaves. Another place we were captured and made into slaves. And we want to remind Hashem of this. And here the mida keneged mida is that we, it says, did not release our slaves. We had slaves. According to the Torah, you have a slave for 7 years. Then he has to go free. We know that it's not easy. We don't know from personal experience, I presume, but we know from the writings that it's not easy, and it was not easy for a person to release their slave. They had a business that was running with basically free labor, and now they have to let him go. So they didn't do it. They didn't follow the mitzvah of releasing their slaves, and because of that, we were made into slaves. So we see that this idea of mida keneged mida, the way we were treated in the tragedies that befell the Jewish people, are a direct relationship to the way we acted. So what does it mean that we ask Hashem to remember this? So I want to relate to you a story about a great convert to Judaism back in the 1700s in Vilna. And he was known as Avraham ben Avraham. And Avram ben Avram, I forgot his name, but he was part of the aristocrats, the aristocracy is the right word. And his father was involved with the church. And it was for all intents expected that he was going to be a part of the church, either as a clergy or just heavily involved with the church. And he had a mind that caused him to delve in all types of things. Eventually, to make the story short, he found Judaism, and he got involved with it, and he converted. And in Lithuania, to convert from being a Catholic to a Jew was a capital crime. They'd kill you for it. And he escaped. After a number of years, it says that he returned to Vilna, and he would spend his time studying in the Beis Medrash, in the study hall in Vilna in the mid-1700s. And he did so under an alias, so that nobody knew who he was. Because if they found out who he was, he'd be killed. And it said that over this time that he was there, he built a relationship with the Vilna Gaon. The great Rav Eliyahu of Vilna was an extraordinary figure in Jewish history. And that it says that he would sit and learn with a few other people day and night, and some of the women from Vilna would come and they would give him food because he had nowhere else to live. And they didn't really know who it was. And then after a period of time, people started to suspect that this is Avraham ben Avraham, the famous convert who has dedicated himself to Torah, has returned. And even though they weren't sure that it was him, they pretty much presumed it was. And one day, there was a young boy who would come into the Beis Medrash, and then he started coming every day in the Beis Medrash. And he took it upon himself to be disruptive and to make trouble for the few men who sat there and learned every day, until one day Avraham ben Avraham reprimands the boy and tells him what you're doing is wrong, and basically gives him a bum's exit, kicks him out, right? Kicks out the boy. The boy goes back to his father, and the father has a presumption that this was Avraham ben Avraham, and he's Moser, he turns him in, because he says, no one's going to do that to my son. And he turns them into the government. Turns them in then. And of course, they come and they arrest him. He's now responsible. His conversion, it's a capital crime. And because of his father's connections, they give him an opportunity to convert back, and he doesn't convert back. And just to make it short, he ends up they're going to kill him. They're going to burn him alive, which is what they did actually. And it says that right before he died, the night before he was being taken out to be killed, the Vilna Gaon sent a message to him that using the mystical names of Hashem and the Kabbalah, which the Vilna Gaon was known to understand, I could have you released. I could use this and get you out. Would you like me to? And his response was that no, he wants to follow the ways of the world, and that he is ready to die al Kiddush Hashem, and that's what happened. So the story is then told, what was this final conversation that he had as he was being led out to be burnt alive at a tree. And the story is told, and it's been documented in a few Sfarim, that he had a conversation with his executioner. And the executioner was making fun of him. That here you are, you went and converted, and now you're going to die. And are the Jews going to safeguard you? And are you going to come back, now that you're a Jew and you're immortal and you're so special, are you going to come back and take revenge on me for what I'm doing to you now? And he said, well, let me tell you a story. When I was a young boy, we lived on a beautiful estate here in Lithuania outside of Vilna, and I was on the beach. And I used to take sand, and I made sand soldiers out of sand. And along came a couple of bullies. And the bullies came by, and they kicked at the soldiers and destroyed them totally. They were gone. And I was all upset, a little boy. I ran to my father, and I said, oh, my father, take revenge on them for me. How can they do this to me? And my father made light of it. You know, they're sand soldiers. It's not such a big thing. And he didn't do anything. And he said then says to the executioner, you know, when the man asked me if I would do this to him, my response to the executioner is as follows. He said, you are about to take my life. My life, and you're taking my body away from me. My body is no different than the sand of the soldiers. It is temporary. You're going to take it from me, and I'm going to go up to heaven. And when I go up to heaven, I am not going to go up to heaven and tell them that I have to come down with thousands of angels and kill you. But I am going to go up to heaven, and I'm going to ask them to please forgive the man who turned me in, because he should be forgiven for acting out of anger, and I am now able to fulfill the mitzvah of dying al Kiddush Hashem. And it said that he went, and he was taken, and he was about to be thrown into a fire. And they say, if you've ever saw the book, it's called the Yesod V'Shorosh Avoda, the author of that book writes in his introduction that he was present at this, and he saw this, and he said amen to the bracha that the man said over dying al Kiddush Hashem. He himself saw this happen. No, but what's the purpose of the story of him telling the man that you're about to kill me, but you're no different than these bullies who wiped out my sand soldiers. All you're doing is wiping out the ash that my body is made from. That's nothing. I will live on. I will be here. And I will not come back to you, mida keneged mida, character trait against character trait, to do to you what you did to me. That's vengeance. We don't do such a thing. And I don't act in such a way. In fact, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to ask them to please be moichel, to forgive the man who caused me to be here today. This idea of mida keneged mida, of a character trait in relationship to another character trait, which is what we say to Hashem here. Hashem, remember us. Why do we have to ask him to remember us when we know that Hashem treated us in direct relationship to what we did wrong? He knows what he did to us. He did it to us. We don't have to remind him of the pain we went through. But what we are really saying here is to Hashem, is that remember us beyond mida keneged mida. Remember us beyond the pain that we went through. Remember the good that we did as well. Remember the fact of who we are, and that we are beyond simply retribution, that we did something wrong and you will pay us back. We have this ongoing relationship with you that goes back to our forefathers. This story in relation to understanding this kina, this example that I'm giving you, is extremely significant, because as we come on Tisha B'Av and we appeal to Hashem that we should have the Mashiach come and no more Tisha B'Avs and be able to repair the damage. But in fact, we can pray for it all we want and we can fast all we want, and it's not easy to fast and to go through what we're going through. I don't have to tell you, you're all doing it. And nevertheless, it doesn't work. Nothing changes. We're not able to get rid of this Mida Keneged Mida, that Hashem is paying us back for what we've done. And the reason is because we're still doing it. It's still going on. We can't pray for Hashem to forgive us for a sin that we continually are doing. And the sin that we have learned that is continually the cause of why we are here is the sin of Sinas Chinam. And I know I say it all the time, and I talk about it all the time until you're probably sick of hearing it from me. But the fact is that the sin of our hatred, our unnecessary hatred from one person to the other, is the reason that we are sitting here now in pain. It's the reason why we haven't had meat for 9 days, and it's the reason we haven't gotten haircuts, and the reason that we haven't eaten today, and it's the reason that we're going through all of this is for that reason. And that we ask Hashem to forgive us, and yet we keep going back like a dog, going back and eating what he throws up. We're going back and doing it again and again and again and again. We have had an occasion recently where Hashem has certainly sent us a message. All of the things that have been going on in Israel, beginning with the horrible murder of the 3 young boys, brought us all together. I was speaking to someone today, and he was telling me how he was hearing from Israeli soldiers that they were feeling the unity of the Jewish people behind them, how they were getting gifts, and they're getting pizzas like we sent, and they're getting clothing, and they're getting tzitzis, and they're getting words of encouragement. They're getting all kinds of things. Why? Because the Jewish people are becoming united when there's trouble. We were enormously united behind these 3 boys. It made no difference if you were Reform and Conservative or Orthodox, unaffiliated, pro-Zionist, anti-Zionist. It made no difference. Everybody, their hearts were bleeding for these boys. And we were all united to the extent that I constantly had to try to filter every program and every idea that everyone came to me with, that I should send out to everyone, that we should donate to this cause and participate in this cause. Millions of causes everyone's coming up with. Why? Because we were finally united. And as I wrote a few weeks ago, and the significance of today hinges on this, the question isn't if we're united when there's a war. When I noticed on Erev Tisha B'Av, by the time we finished yesterday morning Shachris, Erev Tisha B'Av, by the time we finished it, I had gotten 36 alarms of bombs or missiles being sent into Israel. That was before we finished Shachris yesterday morning. That is an enormous amount. That gives us, we certainly want to have unity. We certainly get together. We certainly want to do something about it. But the question is when it ends. When the message has been heard, what are we going to do? Are we going to remain unified? Or are we going to go back to the way we were? And we have 2,000 years of history that says we go back to the way we were. But we have a future in front of us, and we have a time in front of us that says we can change. And how can we do it? So I can't keep telling you we got to do it, and not give you at least some simple idea of what we can do. And there are things that each one of us can do on an individual basis. We can go, for instance, we build a community here. This is the time of year we have new people come to our shul. There are people who are coming to try it out. There are people who are coming who are joining for one reason or another. There are people who are moving into the neighborhood who are coming by. It's time for us to reach out to these people, to take the opportunity to reach them. I know I've been at fault because I keep forgetting to make the announcement at Kiddush that all the new people should come up to my table and they should stand around my table so I get to meet them. But the real reason I do that is to give you the opportunity to know who the new people are, so that you can see who's standing around the table where I'm making Kiddush and you can approach them. And we can invite them over, and we can greet them, and we can make them feel welcome. Nothing is easy, but it creates unity. When we are sitting in shul and somebody is sitting in our place, we're sitting in shul and somebody is davening a little bit differently, let's go out of our way to be friendly to them. Let's not tell them, you're sitting in my seat. Right? Because I can tell you that's the quickest way to get someone to go somewhere else. We have to tell people that we do things that make people feel welcome. These are simple, easy things. I'm going to, again, with the new people coming, I'll be sending out to any of you who ask, who would like to be on the list, I'll be sending out the names of all the new people who are participating in our shul or coming to our shul, so you can invite them to your home. And maybe it won't click. Maybe it won't. Maybe you won't hit it off so well. The next one will. And maybe it will click and you'll make a new friend. But one thing is for sure, if you invite someone to your home, they'll know they're wanted, even if it doesn't work well. Let's take these opportunities to do small, simple acts to show people that we're welcoming them, that we want them here. These are all the first steps towards real unity. We don't want to have unity only when Hashem kills our children. We want to have unity to show Hashem there is no need for that. So that we can say to Hashem, as it says here, right, Zachar Hashem, remember Hashem, Mahayalanu, what all of the pain that we've gone through. And we've listened. And we've heard what you have to say. And we're going to do something about it. And we're going to take the time to pick up the phone and call someone new, or to smile at someone when they walk in, or to sit next to someone I don't know in the shul and to get to meet them, or to go over to somebody in Kiddush that I've never met before and to speak to them, or to invite someone new to come in. All of these simple acts make a world of difference. Our not doing it is what brings us the problems. Our doing it gives us the basis to say to Hashem, what are you doing to us? We have changed. We are new people. We are becoming the people, the unified Jewish people that for 2,000 years we haven't been able to do, we can now do. If this message is all that we get out of Tisha B'Av, it's certainly a big message. It's an important message. If it's all that we learn over this year, from what we went through the last 3 weeks, then let us make sure that we learn it and that we do it. It makes a world of a difference, so that from now on we won't have to come together on Tisha B'Av and ask Hashem, why are these things happening to us? Remember all of the pain that we've been through, because we will no longer deserve it. And that even Mida Keneged Mida, character versus character, when we reach out and welcome others, Hashem will do the same to us.